272 horsepower, and that's it. When the Germans are pushing well over 300 horses and everybody's adding electrons for even more punch, Acura is staying with the trusty 2-liter turbo for the refreshed RDX. This wasn't quite class-leading when it debuted a few years ago, and it hasn't gained a single horsepower since. Now I can hear the comment section already typing furiously, "It's not about the numbers." But is that just what we tell ourselves when the numbers aren't impressive? In this episode, we're going to look at whether this 2-liter turbo has enough guts to make the 2025 RDX top spec trim a contender in the hotly contested luxury SUV segment, or if you're better off spending your money elsewhere for your daily dose of adrenaline. What's it like? Buckle up, my friends. Let's go for a drive. I'm your host, Brian Makse, racer, lover of driving fast, fun things. And on this channel, you get reviews for drivers from drivers. Now, for 2025, the RDX has been refreshed, updated, and there's a lot of things going on. So it's a great reason to revisit the RDX because it's been a couple of years since we've looked at one. And before we get into what this is like to drive, let's have a look at it in a little more depth. For 2025, there have been some styling updates, both inside and out, some major updates on the inside, and it's available in 3 very distinct trims. Under the hood, as you know, is a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, makes 272 horsepower at 6,500 RPM and 280 pounds of torque from 1,600 to 4,500 RPM. The transmission's a 10-speed automatic. Yes, it does have paddle shifters, and they do what they're supposed to do. This is all-wheel drive, and fun fact, Acura's SH-AWD, or super handling all-wheel drive system, can send 70% of torque to the rear wheels. Plus, 9 out of 10 RDX owners can't tell you what SH-AWD stands for, but all 10 of them will tell you it works great in the snow. Suspension's based around McPherson struts at the front, multi-link at the rear. This one does have adaptive dampers, otherwise you get amplitude reactive dampers. Steering's electrically assisted, 4-wheel disc brakes, of course. Wheels and tires are 19s or 20s. This RDX weighs in at just over 4,000 pounds, making it lighter than the German competition, but heavier than your guilt after skipping leg day. Towing capacity is 1,500 pounds, and static weight distribution is 57% front, 43% rear, but on this channel, we know it's not static weight distribution that counts, it's how you use it. I do appreciate the front-end styling refinements of this 2025 RDX, and it's like Acura has found the KonMari method and retained only those elements that spark joy. On the other hand, it seems like lots of black trim elements still spark some joy at Acura. Because I test so many vehicles, I definitely appreciate thoughtful engineering in all aspects of my life. This extra wallet shows the same attention to detail. The aluminum case blocks RFID scanning, protecting your cards from digital theft. The standout, though, is their Finder card technology. It connects to your phone so you'll never lose your essentials again. Perfect for those of us who are on the move. Extra's running an anniversary sale with 30% off, but you guys, my viewers, get up to 40% off with the code BrianMakse. Just go to partner.extra.com/BrianMakse. Links in the description. And speaking of technology that makes life easier, let's get back to this car's driver interface. Here in the driver's seat, there are some notable changes, some layout differences here for additional storage and better functionality, bigger screen, that sort of thing, but the fundamentals are spot on. At this trim level, the seat is heated and cooled, which is great. It's also 16-way adjustable, so just about anybody can get a perfect seating position here. And as for me with my car reviewer physique, well, let's just say I need as much support as I can get. Love the shape and size of the steering wheel, encourages you to have your hands at 9 and 3. The aluminum shift paddles are a nice touch, that's for sure. Maybe the only thing I don't like is the flat bottom bit at the bottom of the steering wheel, but great seating position, great relationship to the pedals as well. Nice solid dead pedal for my left foot, which is there for support when the cornering gets interesting. And overall, I think my only complaint is I'd like to get the seat a little bit lower. Other than that, That translates into excellent visibility, and in terms of visibility, these outboard mirrors are nice and large. And on this channel, we know that when you adjust your 3 mirrors properly, blind spots don't exist. Now, ergonomically, this is not quite as modern as Acura gets. We do have familiar controls here, the traditional Acura push button shifter and dial for the drive modes. These things work great. In my week with this, I've kind of gotten used to this shifter layout, and it's just fine. But I think I'd prefer something a little bit different. Now, in terms of the secondary controls, they're all logically laid out, and everything for the most part is a button or dial or switch, and that is fantastic, and it's a nice refreshing change from everything that seems to be built into the infotainment screen and is touch-based these days. What I will complain about is this touchpad, and I've spent a lot of time with this RDX and I still don't like this. Love the way everything is displayed on the screen. The big thing is this touchpad interface, and it seems to be Acura's hill to die on while the competition surrenders to touchscreens. It's kind of like playing the floor is lava with your finger, where the touchpad is the floor and the lava is accidental menu changes. It works eventually like learning to use chopsticks. It's frustrating at first. It's oddly satisfying once you kind of master it, and it's completely unnecessary if you just give me a touchscreen. And I know some RDX owners are going to tell me I'm wrong, but there's got to be a better solution here. Now, in terms of spaciousness, it is quite spacious in here, even though it is Acura's RDX, smaller than the MDX, which is enormous relatively speaking. This is 2 rows, unlike the MDX, which is a 3-row crossover, but very impressed with the amount of room here. You and your front seat passenger, lots of room, lots of storage. Second row, very spacious. I've got more than enough room behind myself in this seating position when I'm seated in the second row. And fun fact, there's about 29 cubic feet of cargo space underneath the hatch, which is about enough for 4 full-size suitcases or about 2,500 USB cables that may or may not work with your phone. Yeah, this is quick enough. Love the way it builds power all the way to redline. It does 0 to 60 in a tick or two over 6 seconds, which is less time than it takes for me to explain what I do for a living at cocktail parties. And what's really impressive with the engine, when I got in the RDX, I'm like, there's something special about this motor. And indeed, I forgot, it is a K20 2-liter turbo Honda engine, and yes, it's a different variant than what they use in the Civic Type R or Integra Type S. But now that I've revisited it in a completely different environment in this RDX, there's something definitely special about this motor. It just makes fantastic noises, and the way it delivers both power and torque makes peak torque low in the rev range and pulls all the way to redline. Despite the fact that it is winter here, I haven't really driven this in much snow, and I would have really appreciated testing the all-wheel drive system and its real-world torque distribution at the extremes. But in the dry, in the wet, it is absolutely sure-footed, and I've enjoyed watching the all-wheel drive system display because you can see it distribute torque both front to rear as well as side to side. It's very impressive with how it works. And in terms of cornering, well, that's where it really works, which we'll talk about in just a minute. The automatic, well, lots of gears, it's 10 speeds, so you've got lots of options. It is a little bit slower to shift than some other transmissions, but overall works exactly as it should. It does not hold gears in manual mode. If you run the motor up to redline in manual shift mode, it will actually shift itself, and that's just fine as far as I'm concerned, but it holds onto gears in sport mode or manual mode as long as possible, and it's like it kind of knows you're doing something interesting and maybe attacking some corners. For this 4,000 pound, 272 horsepower luxury SUV to do 0 to 60 in 6 seconds or thereabouts is pretty impressive. 272 horsepower used to be what supercars made in the 80s. Now, among the luxury SUV crowd, it's Tuesday. Seriously, though, let's address the elephant in the room. The output of this 2-liter turbo hasn't changed since this RDX was launched. The Europeans are adding mild hybrids to their turbocharged motors, and the Koreans are squeezing out more power, while Acura sticks with their tried and true Turbo 4. It's like bringing an iPhone 11 to a tech convention. It works fine, but everybody knows you're behind. But here's the thing, in daily driving, you won't care. Torque comes on instantaneously, low in the rev range, and power delivery is so smooth, and on top of that, it's so satisfying mechanically to stab that throttle and get all of the responsiveness, all the power, and all the torque out of this 2-liter Turbo 4. Did you know that 80% of you are not subscribed? Yes, it's true. 80% of you are not subscribed. I checked the data. So if you like the content on this channel, do me a solid, hit that subscribe button, make sure you like this. And if you want to support the channel, please hit up our merch store. Links here, links below. Lots of great stuff for driving enthusiasts like us, including our very popular line of Save the Manuals merch. Now back to your regularly scheduled episode. When it comes to handling, there's a lot to discuss here. What we are doing right now is driving this in sport mode simply because the adaptive dampers do a fantastic job in sport mode. And the reason is there's superb body and wheel control here, especially body control compared to the comfort mode. It is a night and day difference. When we are in comfort damper mode, or this is the normal drive mode, there's really not much of a difference between this normal drive mode and this comfort mode. What you do get in either of these modes is a much more compliant ride, just soaks up the bumps, no problem at all. And thankfully, there's not a lot of crash through over larger bumps. Very impressed with how the suspension filters those out. Now, if you do want to attack the corners with one of the softer damper settings, you certainly can. And again, some of the road surfaces here necessitate that because they're just so bad. But it's overall better in the sport damper setting, that's for sure. Just body and wheel motion is so much better. And the thing about this all-wheel drive system, yes, it can distribute 70% of the torque to the rear axle, but it can distribute 100% of that to either the left or the right side. That's impressive, and you can see that in the all-wheel drive display from time to time, and it does that very intuitively, making this much more enjoyable to drive. This isn't a pure luxury crossover. This is definitely more sporting in terms of its dynamics, and the all-wheel drive system is definitely part of that. When you're exiting corners, it's much more neutral than you'd expect because this is fundamentally front-wheel drive architecture, but overall, the all-wheel drive system's torque distribution definitely makes this much more satisfying to drive. With respect to steering, well, it's direct and precise. Not much feel or feedback comes through the steering wheel, but it's got as much feel as a FaceTime call provides human connection. And technically you're connected, but something's just missing from the equation. There's a surprising amount of chassis feel here, so you can feel what's going on at each of the 4 contact patches. If you are near its limits, you can play with this, and it does give you some decent feedback. And in terms of braking, well, that is extremely impressive, as you can see. And that's full ABS. This thing stops confidently when you need it, and even under full ABS, it tracks perfectly straight. Very impressed with the braking, but what is more impressive is the quality of feedback that comes through that brake pedal. It's maybe a little softer than I'd like, but in terms of modulation and control, those are excellent. What I love about the brakes is they've got great initial bite, unlike that sad sandwich you packed for your lunch today. Because we are talking about an SUV, taller center of gravity means there's a little bit more body roll than you would get in a traditional sedan, but overall it's not too bad. This thing corners relatively flat. Overall handling balance fairly neutral. It's only when you really get to the extreme limits of grip, where this RDX kind of reveals that it is front wheel drive based. It's not quite as buttoned down as the MDX Type S, for example, but overall still very satisfying to drive. And overall, the dynamics between the suspension, the braking, the steering, and the all-wheel drive system, it's surprisingly agile for what it is, unlike my attempts to navigate the lunch line at manufacturer press events. How do you spec yours? Well, it's a fairly easy question to answer simply because of the way Acura organizes their trim levels. There really aren't options per se, but just simply different trim levels. What you are looking at is one of the new paints. It's the Urban Gray Pearl, very fashionable name for a fashionable paint color with the red leather interior. This is the top trim. It's the A-Spec Advance. In the US and Canada, it's called the Platinum Elite A-Spec. In the US, base price is $54,450. Add $600 for this fashionable paint for an as-tested price of $55,050. In Canada, base price is $62,630. Add $900 for the fashionable paint, $600 for the fashionable red leather, for a total as-tested in Canada of $64,130 before freight, fees, and taxes. As I mentioned, the options list is mercifully short because Acura bundles features and packages, saving you from the German approach of charging you separately for things like doors and a steering wheel. For the price of this top spec RDX, you can basically get yourself a new X3 with a cloth interior and manual windows. I might be exaggerating just slightly, and you BMW fans definitely know it. The sweet spot is likely the RDX A-Spec, giving you the looks without the adaptive dampers that you might appreciate. But if you're already spending that kind of money, why not go full YOLO? And it's what I call, I'm not old enough for a Lexus, but I'm too old for another speeding ticket special. Seriously though, I appreciate all of the features and all of the performance, especially the adaptive dampers that are part of this top trim. And as far as I'm concerned, if you want to spec your RDX, get it this way, just not in this fashionable gray color. My verdict, well, let's talk about fuel consumption. And regular viewers of the show know that I'm not afraid to use the throttle. And it seems no matter how I drive this, I'm getting about 28 miles per gallon, or about 13 liters per 100 kilometers for my Canadian friends. As for this original question, but whether this 2-liter turbo and its 272 horsepower is good enough. And I think we've got ourselves a conclusion. The thing is, this motor is such a treat. It's not about having as much power as the competition. It's about having it all in the right way. The RDX still doesn't win the spec sheet battles, and it's not the quickest in the class, but the combination of this responsive Honda turbo motor, the all-wheel drive system, and the decent chassis creates something that a spec sheet doesn't capture. Are there more powerful options out there? Of course there are. But are you going to use that extra power on your daily commute or your weekend drives? Probably not. But what Acura has done here is created a powertrain that encourages you to use every single horsepower that it makes. Sure, it's not the quickest, it's not the flashiest, but it might just be the one you enjoy the most when that new car smell fades. Thanks for hanging out with me today and having a look at this 2025 Acura RDX. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, you're not new, you know what to do. Smash the subscribe button, turn on your notifications like this, and as always, sharing is caring. So please share this with your friends, especially on Reddit, because on Reddit, they really need to see reviews for drivers from drivers. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And if you want to support the channel, please hit up our merch store. Links here, links below. Lots of great stuff for driving enthusiasts like us, including our very popular line of Save the Manuals merch. And Acura still makes a fine manual. Thanks, Acura. Anyway, thanks again for watching. We'll see you again next time. And remember, cars don't understeer by themselves, not even Acura RDXs. And since you've hung around this long, we'll have a look at my favorite current Acura, the Integra Type S. Really like that one. It would make a perfect garage mate to this RDX. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you again next time.